think we can all agree that sometimes we become complacent about things that don't directly affect us on a daily basis. I know I for sure have been guilty of this up until last February when one of my best friends called me on the phone and told me that 17 of her former friends and classmates had been shot and killed by a man with a semi-automatic weapon in her former high school. Now, my friend's life will never be the same after that tragic event. And if we continue to be complacent about American gun laws in this country, maybe one day that could be you. So this is why I believe that the US federal government should ban semi-automatic weapons in all US states. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the current policy on these issues. I'm going to tell you why semi-automatic weapons are so bad for us as Americans. I'm going to provide a plan to fix that problem, and I'm going to address some possible counter-arguments to that plan. So first, let's look at both federal and state legislation on semi-automatic weapons today. First, federally, we have no current laws pertaining to semi-automatic weapons today in this country. In 1994, President Bill Clinton signed into law the Violent Crime Control Act. This retroactively banned semi-automatic weapons in this country. But that act had a sunset clause, which means in 2004, that act expired and is no longer law in this country. So that takes us to state laws. We have currently 7 states in this country, and the District of Columbia, that have banned semi-automatic weapons in this country. But we have 2 states that regulate the sale of these weapons, and then every other state in this country has pretty much no laws or regulations pertaining to semi-automatic weapons. So, semi-automatic weapons are horrible for us as Americans for 2 main reasons. First, semi-automatic weapons have turned everyday activities into potential death missions for our people. The next time you walk into a movie theater, you could end up like one of the 12 people who died in Aurora, Colorado. The next time you sit down in class, you could end up like one of the 32 people who died at Virginia Tech. The next time you want to go out to a bar with one of your friends, you could end up like one of the 49 who died at Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Now, this is Grace Audrey McDonald. She was a bright 7-year-old girl who had dreams of moving to Martha's Vineyard to become a painter. But sadly, in December of 2012, a man armed with a semi-automatic weapon walked into her elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, and killed her alongside 25 of her fellow classmates and teachers. Now, Grace could have been any one of us. Grace could have been your little sister. Grace could have been your niece. She could have even been your own child. And Grace was brutally murdered for doing something that we ask children in this country to do every single day. Now, innately, humans are social beings. When we do everyday activities, we like to be in groups. But this is bad for us as Americans because of the amount of bullets that can be spewed out of a semi-automatic weapon per minute, 45 to be exact. It allows for shooters to target these groups and have the most amount of casualties. So everyday activities have become dangerous for us as Americans, and it is unacceptable. The second reason why semi-automatic weapons are horrible for us as Americans is that the scope to which they can inflict harm is unprecedented. Let's look at a case study, for example. This is Stephen Paddock. He is the man who did the attack on the Route Harvest Music Festival in Las Vegas. This man obtained a semi-automatic AR-15 completely legally and added a few legal modifications to that weapon as well. Now, this man was able to wound over 500 people and kill almost 60 in just about 10 minutes. Now, let me put that into perspective for you a little bit. That might make a little bit of sense to our Vanderbilt students even better. So, in the time that it would take for you to walk home to your dorm tonight from this event, this man shot, wounded, or killed the same amount of people that live in Towers 3, the dorm here at Vanderbilt. It is absolutely unbelievable that anyone can legally own a weapon that can inflict this much damage in this short of a period of time. Now, I have a plan to fix this problem. All that has to happen is the US federal government must pass a law that bans semi-automatic weapons in this country. Now, I believe that this plan will work for two reasons. First, it's worked before. According to the Giffords Law Center, when the 1994 Violent Crime Act was enacted, during that time period, there was a significant decrease in the amount of dangerous crimes that were committed with semi-automatic weapons. So we saw a decrease in the amount of semi-automatic weapons that were used when the ban was already enacted. Second, other countries have enacted bans as well. According to Forbes, both Britain and Australia enacted bans in 1996. In the 22 years that both of those countries have had bans, not a single mass shooting has happened in either of those countries. Now, I'm not trying to say that the United States is the exact same as these two countries, as we clearly have a bit of a different culture surrounding guns. But both of these countries, just like America, are developed world leaders, and I genuinely believe that the United States would see a significant decrease in the amount of mass shootings that we see in this country if we were to ban semi-automatic weapons. Now, there are two main reasons why people have opposition to my plan. So the first reason is that people believe that banning semi-automatic weapons would infringe upon their Second Amendment rights. Now, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, but let's look at the facts for a second. The Second Amendment was enacted in 1791. The most advanced form of weaponry in 1791 was a musket that could shoot about 3 rounds per minute. Now, an AR-15, which is one of the most common semi-automatic weapons, can shoot 45 rounds per minute. The Second Amendment is a right to bear arms, not a right to bear weapons of mass destruction. The second reason why many people think that semi-automatic weapons should not be banned is that they use these weapons for leisure activities and protection. The NRA states that everyday Americans have many legitimate uses for semi-automatic weapons, such as hunting and self-protection. So I know that hunting is a very fun activity for a lot of people, but there's no need to use these semi-automatic weapons to do that. Here are 2 very great shotguns that can do pretty much the exact same thing as an AR-15 can do, except for the fact that you cannot reload them at the same speed or shoot them at the same speed as a semi-automatic weapon, and thus you cannot inflict nearly as much damage. But you can hunt almost any animal with these weapons. Second, many people say that they need these guns for self-protection. Well, surely if you use an AR-15, you will be protected, but your home will not be. If you shoot an AR-15 inside your house, you will have multiple holes in the walls throughout your house due to the velocity and just power of the AR-15. In closing, no one should be able to own a weapon nobody should be able to legally own a weapon that can inflict this much pain onto other people. Today I told you a little bit about the current policies on semi-automatic weapons. I told you why semi-automatic weapons are horrible for us as Americans. I told you a plan to fix that problem. I addressed some possible counter-arguments as well. It is our job to keep American streets safe. And as long as we allow semi-automatic weapons to roam free, we will never truly be safe, and mass shootings may never end. Thank you.